Welcome back. Expect a solid start to the trading session. Given the buoyant global cues, the Korean markets are up 4% after the short-selling ban till June of 2024. Japan has opened up after a day's holiday on Friday, and it's opened up with strength. And other markets like Taiwan, Hang Seng, all holding up with gains of close to about 1 to 2%. The Gift Nifty too is suggesting a very strong start. Prakash Diwan is here with us on the show. Prakash, two PSU banks will be in focus today. One is State Bank of India and the other one is Bank of Baroda. Now, given Bank of Baroda has outperformed State Bank of India by more than 40% in the last 1 year, are you expecting it to start underperforming? What should the play be if someone holds Bank of Baroda in their portfolio? Should they look to switch it to any other PSU bank?
Good morning, Rima. That's a very interesting question. Because what's happening is now that the banking results season is kind of done with the big daddy SBI also telling you that this is where we are in terms of quality, in terms of NIM growth, in terms of, credit growth. It's very important for people to assess that Bank of Baroda did extremely well in the recent past, because after SBI, PNB, you have the second bracket bank, which is Canara Bank, BOB and Canara Bank in that order, if you will. And within that, Canara Bank probably started seeming a bit pricier. And then that's where people latched on to BOB. So it was more of ownership and the kind of holding pattern that decided most of the outperformance that you mentioned. But if you actually look at a longer term growth where SBI is kind of flexing itself to leverage on all those 3-4 verticals that any large bank would be able to get growth from, I think SBI's run is yet to begin. So in my understanding, SBI will probably outperform, but it's a giant of a balance sheet. It will take time to kind of, give you those incremental returns, which a much smaller Canara Bank or BOB could have done. But I would believe Bank of Baroda will probably have to reset itself, give them 2 quarters. They'll take that kind of time to come back. But SBI, with the quality concerns out of the way, growth looking very strong, I think is definitely underrated in terms of price as well. So I would believe there's much more to go for SBI than BOB for sure.
Okay, separating the men from the boys, right, Prakash? Like you always do. Thanks for that. Well, good morning. I wanted your thoughts on Interglobe Aviation. Good set of numbers coming through. But, the stock has also rallied about 40% in the past 1 year. You think a lot of the good news is in the price?
Good morning, Sonia. No, not at all. I think Indigo is looking at a situation where it not only has made a comeback from those COVID-impacted lows on all metrics, whether it's the CASK and the RASK, it's also the EBITDA. It's look at where they have made a lot of changes. So it's not just revenue growth, but they've managed to keep their costs much better, much more efficiently controlled than what they were doing at the pre-pandemic levels. And if you notice some of the changes that they've made, they've 2 things. They've added a lot of routes which will take time to stabilize. I mean, you have now 85 destinations from which it flies to and fro, and in more than about 1,000 flights a day. So with that kind of a scale, and with the rest of the players like Go First and Spice vacating a lot of space, there is so much that they have in terms of pricing power, Sonia. The other thing that's changing, I think, is an overhang on the promoter selling. Is where I think the stock got impacted, and it's been a lid of sorts on the stock price. These results, given the kind of seasonality that we are seeing, crude not going as berserk as we thought, all of that kind of could play out, and you'll have a very strong run in the stock, at least in the short term. Of course, in the long term, it will get tied in with the secular growth story. And remember, airlines do well if new airports come up. It's not about new planes. It's not about this thing. There's always a potential traffic, but then you need airports. So it's like, Maruti did well because, roads came into India 20 years back. So that's the whole pattern that's emerging. I'm quite positive given these metrics for Indigo.
Okay, quite positive given the metrics for Indigo.
Prakash is still with us. Prakash, we're going to talk about Zomato, which came out during market hours, and there is a great deal of excitement about this one. So what's the sense? I mean, there are those, for example, I was reading a note by IIFL who was saying that it's juiced out at current valuations, but there are others who believe that it's only the teaser, and the potential is large. It's a felt need, and we all know the fundamental drivers for the business from here on, but it's a matter of valuations, etc. So your call.
No, good morning, Prashant. So very interesting juncture that Zomato is kind of clobbered itself to come to, and given what PB Fintech and Delivery and Nykaa are doing, so this post IPO drop that we had seen, the bad boys club, if you will. I mean, it's just in a lighter way. They were always struggling to even come above the IPO levels, and Zomato's probably breasted the tape. So that's the change that's going to happen. So all that distress selling that you saw, all that overhang in terms of large PE exits, is out of the way. So what will happen is it will now stabilize at a higher PE multiple, given the long-term secular story that the narrative that it's kind of building up. And remember, Swiggy's weakness in the market is going to be significantly beneficial for them. Of course, there are a lot of disruptors that could come along the way and try and make things difficult for Zomato to get its pricing power to inch up. But at the moment, Prashant, I think if you ask any restaurant owners, any network players, all of that is leading to a very simple scalability and operating leverage coming at some point in time. So I think the stock should do well. There won't be much of selling pressure. It's kind of turned the corner, and that's exactly why you won't see supply coming into the market on the stock. So I think at about 115, it's kind of not very, it's not valued at a value buying kind of a zone, but I don't think it's even expensive. So it's in middle of the path. Depends on what you look at time horizon wise, but I think it will do well from here on.
Okay.
Right.
By the way, we have Nykaa's numbers today. So after the strong showing from Zomato, let's see what Nykaa does. The expectation is that the beauty business could have a growth in 30%. Let's see what the fashion business does. But
let's just get back to stocks and earnings, right? Prakash is still with us. By the way, we discussed so many earnings which have come through post-Friday and over the weekend, etc. as well. And there is a common thread. There isn't very much by way of earnings upgrades, right? Stocks move based on earnings surprises, both up and down. And if you look at whether there are any upgrades to consensus earnings expectations, or looking at various notes, etc., there aren't very few. I could only actually look at Indigo, which has seen some upgrades because numbers have beaten expectations. Just to kind of rewind the clock back, I looked at we had about 50% done, actually more than 50% done with this earnings season. If you look at the NSE 200 group of companies, these are the top 200 companies up on your screen, and 58 companies out of the 100 have seen FY25 earnings being downgraded over the last 1 month. Earnings season is 1 month old. And since the time the earnings season started, 58 out of the 100 top companies have seen earnings being downgraded for FY25 1 year forward. Only 39 have seen upgrades. Quickly to take a look at the upgrades and downgrades, they're on your screen. IOC, BPCL, HDFC AMC, HDFC Life, JSW Energy has seen a double-digit earnings upgrade. Dr. Reddy's, Maruti, Dixon, KPIT are some of the others which are up on your screen. And which are the top downgrades? Chemical, UPL, SRF, Naveen Fluorine have seen downgrades. Loris Laboratories, Syngene. Look at ICICI Pru and Max Financial. So insurance comes up strongly. JSPL, there is Tech Mahindra, which has seen some sharp downgrades. Banks have seen downgrades. Federal Bank, Kotak Bank, HDFC Bank, Adani Wilmar, Jubilant Food, QSR, of course. We had the management of Sapphire on Friday. Now, it doesn't look all that great. Names like Tata Communication, Petronet LNG, Sona BLW, Emphasis, these are all seen downgrades. The point being that even though company earnings for the quarter may seem good, okay, what matters is upgrades or downgrades to where the street already is in terms of their expectations of what earnings will be in the future. And there we are seeing more downgrades as compared to upgrades at this point in time. I think Prakash is still with us. Prakash, quickly, any thoughts, any names strike out to you?
But interestingly, you look at, the upgrades are across the board in the sense they are across various sectors, I would say across the board. So you've got energy, you've got some of these auto names, so it's not that, and of course, while insurance has been struggling, some of the insurance players like Max and IPO have struggled, and PB Fintech numbers corroborate that. HDFC Life has got an upgrade. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's very stock specific at the moment. And the chemical segment is the one that I would really look at. With the numbers that Aarti Industry gave out, I can tell you anecdotally, I spoke to a very large chemical player, And what they've done is the softness in demand has brought down capacity utilization. They've utilized this period for a lot of debottlenecking, a lot of upgradation in their processes. And, once that demand starts picking up, this bottoming out will actually start getting into a very different positive, favorable zone. So, I think earnings tell you what not to buy more than, what to buy. And from that perspective, things that have peaked out are the ones where you probably see some pain or some sort of consolidation. But things like chemicals, where there is a very clear bottoming out, and the large companies which are utilizing this softness in demand trajectory to actually invest and look at gross block improvement in some of these companies. In spite of reduction in demand, they've done quite well on that front. So which means that they're gearing up for the restocking cycle. And as and when that happens, it could be a quarter or 2 quarters away. But that's the nature of the business. So I would look at earnings from a slightly more positive perspective. What's soft, what's got downgraded, will actually give you entry points to get in. So, chemicals is probably the standout sector in this quarter from a very clear indication of bottoming out.
Hey, Prakash, thanks a lot for joining in. We're heading